Do you go in for the work ethic? Huh? Or are you a lilies of the field person?
I'm trying to find out why Watford Town lost 4-1 when the opposing team only had 10 men and 2 of them were Bolivians.
Consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet I say unto you...
Yes, Robert, yes. I've come across the book.
Well?
Robert, haven't you got any work to do?
I'm doing it.
No, you're not. You're talking. Talking is not work. Not unless you're eating a curry at the same time.
It's the George Hardcastle Memorial Essay.
Is it?
Yes. Once a year, all the kids in Lockwood go in for the George Hardcastle Memorial Prize.
Good, good.
If you win, you get some really boring book.
Good.
This year, the subject is work.
I'm delighted to hear it.
I've asked Dad. He doesn't know.
Of course he knows.
Well, he's avoided the question then. Put it like that.
Well, it's just that he's had a busy day and he's trying to relax with the paper.
Yeah, thank you, darling.
But it's not as if I asked him to do something, like mend something or something.
Robert, of course I am a work ethic person, but at the moment I'm trying to be a lily of the field.
That is a cop-out.
Oh, no, it isn't. It's damned impossible. Fat chance any lily would have in this field.
Don't get so tetchy.
No, I'm not tetchy. I'm not tetchy. I have tried to read this paragraph now 3 times and I still haven't got to the end.
Well, just answer Robert's question and then we'll leave you in peace. I answered it.
You answered Robert's question about the work ethic?
Uh-huh.
I wish I'd been here for that.
So do I. Well, Edward, we're waiting.
All right. All right, all right, all right, all right. Work is something rather unpleasant that has to be done in order to avoid something even more unpleasant, i.e. starvation. Now, doubtless we'd all like to be lilies at heart. However, as the good book continues to say, they do finish up in the end in the oven. And that is because lilies are not organised. Lilies do not have bank accounts. Lilies do not invest. Lilies do not belong to unions. Thus, the life of a lily is a short one, but a merry one. And it's not all that merry, really, come to think of it, is it? Because it gets rained on, cows eat them, kids rip them up and put them in jam jars. So, my dear Robert, if you fancy the life of a lily, I would suggest to you that you go down to Lockwood Municipal Park and bury your feet in a flower bed. And if the green fly don't get you, the park keeper will. Everybody all right? Everybody happy? Good, I'm going back to Watford.
But you don't, do you?
I am trying to I don't what?
You don't work.
I beg your pardon?
I mean, your management. All the actual work is done by your secretary in the union, then.
My secretary, Alice Morrison. She only thinks about one thing, one.
Don't let's go into that, Edward.
Yeah, all right. But it isn't work. At least it shouldn't be. My goodness me, when I was a young man, I remember...
Thank you, Edward.
But what about the real workers?
Well, if you're talking about the sweating and straining variety, Robert, they're very thin on the ground these days.
I bet you Mr. Blundle doesn't think that.
Mr. Blundle doesn't think. Mr. Blundle doesn't have to think. Mr. Blundle acts and reacts. Rather like a nuclear power station. When everything's going well, he sits there and hums. And when everything goes badly, he turns red and blows up in your face. Mr. Blundle doesn't have the word thinking written down in his union rule book.
I suppose that's the trouble, really.
Well, exactly.
I mean, people like me only ever hear one side.
How many sides do you want to hear, for God's sake? Huh?
Both sides, of course, including the other side.
Oh,
Robert. No, Monica, wait a minute. No, Robert's right. Quite right, Robert. Now, the whole business of understanding the unions, understanding labour relations, all the boring business of getting people to do boring jobs is very interesting. And it is crucial. And if there were more people around these days who had a really strong background in labour relations, well, things wouldn't be in the mess they are now.
You didn't have a strong background in labour relations. You always wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, darling, Monica, please,
It's
really.
one of the first things you ever told me.
But, darling, that was when I was young, you know? I mean, before I decided to carve out a career for myself in industry.
They only gave you the job in labour relations because the kitchen furniture business didn't need any fighter pilots.
That's absolutely untrue.
And they were sick of you wandering around the place with good ideas, upsetting people, so they made you head of labour relations.
No, I was, in fact, groomed for it.
Oh.
Yeah, all right, darling, I wasn't groomed for it. It was just chance. The same thing happened to Winston Churchill.
Oh, was he in the kitchen furniture business too?
Oh, yes. Used to come down to the works every Friday afternoon and do some bending and pressing. What are you talking about, Robert? I mean, I used Winston Churchill as an illustration. Winston Churchill, for years and years, was totally ignored. And then when the moment of crisis came, the hand of fate reached out.
Only in your case, it was Mr. Blundle demanding coat hooks for the workers.
No, well, no, that's a very good case in point. I'll tell you about that. I shall never, ever forget that weekend, Robert. It was extraordinary. Rather like Suez. I'll tell you what was happening, you see. The company were just about to lose 87 kitchen sink units. And it really was touch and go.
Did they get their coat hooks?
Well, we compromised. Grade 2 and upwards, they got the coat hooks.
Why not the others? I mean, it doesn't seem that much to ask.
You see, that is exactly what I explained to Mr. Lazenby. You see, I thought it would be a good idea, very useful to us, to create an atmosphere of us and them in them.
Did Mr. Blundle get a coat hook?
Yeah, well, Mr. Blundle, I mean, he's the senior shop steward, isn't he? Of course he gets a coat hook.
So he's one of us?
Oh, no. No, he's one of them. Well, I mean, you know, not really. I mean, amongst them, of course, he is, in fact, one of us. But not amongst us proper. Amongst us, he's one of them, and amongst them, he's one of us.
I see. So amongst us, he's them, or amongst them, he's us?
When you're older, you'll understand, darling.
Yes, well, I've got to write this essay now, while I'm still at school.
Well, that's perfectly clear to me.
But is it clear to Mr. Blundle?
Don't argue, darling. Your father does know.
How can he if he's never asked
Well,
him?
look, I tell you what, why don't you ask him yourself? Why don't you ring him up and ask him, eh?
Because you always moan when I ring people up.
Oh, I won't mind this phone call, because this one will be the briefest possible conversation ever.
I do believe I'm about to retire to bed.
Yeah, good idea.
One more thing. Is there an us and them situation amongst us? You know, management.
Robert, of course not.
You ask the most extraordinary questions, Robert.
Except with the head of security.
Why him?
Well, because he used to be one of them. And now he's one of us. Well, I mean, at least they think that he's one of us. Good night, Robert.
Good night, darling.
Good night.
I'm beginning to wonder if this essay is a good idea after all.
Now, while I admit that one fire drill exercise does cost us the equivalent of half a week's work in lost time, erosion of goodwill, general vandalism, etc., etc., nevertheless, I do believe that the entire workforce, if it was lost in a fire, would cost the company even more.
You heard the good news?
I'm trying to do dictation.
No, that's not it.
For this reason, I
We
believe...
are going to have 2 canteens.
What?
Well, 1 canteen and 1 sort of restaurant.
You're making it up.
A pound says I'm not.
2? My God, our workforce won't even go into the one we've got already. Why 2?
It's a directive from Munich, sort of. Apparently the management have got to eat with the workers. But Frank says that his life insurance policy doesn't cover him eating in our present one. So we're going to have 2. When the workforce will be allowed in the new one, but they've got to wear a collar and tie. And there'll be lots of Mozart on gramophone records.
But our workforce doesn't wear collars and ties. Well, not when they're working.
Tilt.
And I would say Mozart's a downright provocation.
I think Mr. Lazenby would like to discuss the menu.
Right you are. We'll get this lot sorted out.
Attaboy, Edwin.
Oh, I love him when he's angry.
Well? Edwin, I've got some good news.
Yes, I know.
That's impossible. I'm thinking of opening a second eating area.
Yes, Granville told me.
He had no business telling you. That was my secret.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I shall never tell him another thing. I may sack him.
No, I think he was just trying to help, Frank.
Walker? Tcha! In any case, you didn't have to tell me that he told you. You could have pretended you didn't know.
Does it really matter, Frank?
Not now. It's all spoiled. It did matter. Anyway, we're going to have proper grown-up food in the new restaurant, and you've got to be properly dressed to go in there.
Yeah. Do you think this is a good idea, Frank? I mean, you know, and the Mozart...
He didn't tell you about that.
He just muttered something, you know.
He'll never get another job in the kitchen furniture business. Blabbermouth.
Well, anyway, I understand it was Munich's idea.
Ah, no, there is wrong. Absolutely wrong. It was my idea.
Yes, but it was Munich's idea, in fact, to get the workers to eat with the management.
That wasn't all.
Oh?
Do you mean there's something you don't know?
Well, all Granville told me, it wasn't...
He missed out the best bit. Typical. We've all got to learn to speak German. From top to bottom, from me right down to whoever it is down there.
Why?
Interchangeability. A man could be bending here on Monday and pressing in Munich on Tuesday. Completely fluent.
They don't know our workforce.
They know very little, thank God.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, it was Munich's idea, was it, to get the management and the workers to eat together?
Yes. Yeah. Rubbish, of course. The idea, that is, not the food. Well, the food, too.
Yes, but you are, in fact, going to have a second restaurant.
With the menu in German. If a man is starving, he'll learn the lingo, if only to make sure he doesn't eat something unusual.
Yes, but Frank, if it's in German, nobody will go in at all.
You mean because of the collars and the ties and the Mozart? Correct. That bit was my idea.
Look, Frank, I don't like to say so, but that is not the way to teach languages.
I am not a fool, Edwin.
Really? So what's happening in Finland, Frank?
Snowing, probably.
Oh, no, I meant language-wise. I mean, do they have to learn German as well?
Quite probably. Nothing else to do in Finland. Snows all the time.
I think that the Union might regard that as the thin end of the wedge. In fact, they might regard it as the thick end.
What do you think about cosy fan tutte?
Well, I'm easy. I can eat anything.
It is by Mozart.
Oh, yes. Oh, that cosy fan tutte. Yes, of course. Yes, of course, Frank.
That should keep the workforce out, shouldn't it?
Should keep everybody out, Frank.
No, we don't switch it on until we see one of them approaching the entrance to the restaurant. Then we let them have it, good and loud.
Look, Frank, don't you think this is rather complicated?
Simplicity itself. Sort of cultural electric fence.
Yes, but Munich will want to know about the German lessons, won't they?
That's your business. I'm putting you in charge of it.
Well, Frank, I don't speak German.
Exactly. So don't let me down, Edwin. Oh, and if Herman the German rings up, tell him about the menus.
I'm home.
Congratulations.
I've got somebody coming to tea.
Oh, now you tell me. There's only that little bit of sponge left.
Oh, that'll do.
Jam sandwiches?
Oh, yes, please.
Ginger beer or tea?
Better make it tea.
What time do you want it?
About 6:30, please.
That's a bit late for tea, isn't it?
I'm afraid he can't get here any earlier.
Oh, I see. Who is it?
Mr. Blundle.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I thought you said...
Mr. Blundle?
Mr...
Blundle. Dad's Mr. Blundle.
Coming here?
Yes, I rang him up.
Wait, is this some kind of a joke?
No. Dad said to ring him.
But
Look, he can't stay long. He's got to go at 8:30 and meet the area organiser.
Oh, I see.
Perhaps not jam sandwiches. Have we got any bangers and mash?
You are becoming a snob, Robert. Mr. Blundle will have cucumber sandwiches and buttered bread like anybody else, and you will just pop down to Merridew's and get a complete walnut cake. Now.
Between you and me, Frank, I don't think Edwin's heart's in it.
If he takes the money, his heart's in it.
Absolutely, but he eats in that pigsty with the peasants.
Are you talking about?
What his heart's not in? The new restaurant project.
I wasn't talking about the new restaurant project.
No, of course
I
not.
was talking about the language. Nonsense.
I took German at school.
Isn't that Blundle?
I've forgotten most of it.
What's he doing going home in the middle of the afternoon?
But I could probably rub it up, you know.
Call him.
Who?
Blundle.
Blundle!
afternoon.
What time do you call this?
I call it 5:15.
A bereavement in the family, perhaps? Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, this is where a great deal of time is wasted during the fire drill due to the workers pretending they are in coldits and mocking the guards, i.e. the management. Does seem to me that if the plant really was burning down, everybody would have better things to do.
Why wasn't I told about the bereavement in Blundle's family? I am the father figure. I do count.
You know, I think that bereavement's a slight exaggeration, Frank. It's just that Mr. Blundle's wife's mother's coming for the weekend. And it does have the same effect with Mr. Blundle.
I call that cheating.
I call it rotten luck.
Have you told him about the German lessons?
No.
Have you told him about the second restaurant?
No.
Have you told him or anyone anything about anything?
No.
We are not planning the invasion of Europe, Edwin.
I think that's very, very funny.
On the other hand, it is nice to have someone around who isn't running off at the mouth every 5 minutes. Well done, Edwin. Say nothing. Continue to say nothing. And if anybody asks you what you're doing, say you don't know.
What are you doing?
I don't know. Oh, taking dictation, Mr. Lazenby.
Not addressed to me, is it?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's the fire drill.
I thought I'd stamp that out.
Yes, but you see, I thought...
I don't wish to know about that, Edwin. There's far too much paper flying around this place. It can cause fires.
Is he a scream?
I heard that. Nothing to do?
No. Yes.
Then do it. Walker. I'm worried about the German. I think someone ought to learn it.
Well, what about Walker?
No, he did it at school. Cocky little beast. I'm trying to stamp out Walker.
Well, what about...
You.
Oh, no, Frank, no. I am useless at languages. Alice, aren't I useless at languages?
Useless.
Absolutely useless, Frank. I mean, even English sometimes. English. A, B, C, D.
Ah! Yes.
Yes. But I have got quite a good idea, Frank. You see, I thought it might be a good idea if we offered a sort of bonus payment for anyone who passed a simple test. Well, you know, say ordering a couple of packets of crisps in German, 1 salt and vinegar and 1 smoky sauerkraut.
Payment? I don't like it, Edwin.
Oh, just a small payment, Frank.
Fortons?
I think a bit bigger than that, Frank. About £5.
God almighty!
It will probably get Munich off our backs, Frank.
Dreams, Edwin. Dreams.
And then, of course, you see, it would help us here. Create a new elite, a new us within the ranks of them.
You're a cunning old fox, Edwin.
Oh, not really, Frank?
I know not really, but it's the sort of thing one says. No, let's throw a saddle on it. See if anyone wants a ride.
They always say things like that. Don't they?
Oh, that'll be him.
Have you brushed your hair?
Look, he's a shop steward, not a fashion photographer.
I don't want him to think that I'm raising a brood of Old Testament prophets.
You know, Father, I asked you over, you see, because I'm writing this essay about work. And my father said the best person to talk to about work was your very good self.
Oh, aye.
You see, I want to find out about things from the union's point of view.
Oh, aye.
Like the work ethic and things like that.
The what?
The work ethic.
Oh, aye.
How do you do, Mr. Blundle? I'm Robert's mother. I've heard... Mr. Thornfield.
Yes, I do know him.
It's very kind of you to come all this way. Robert, would you take Mr. Blundle's coat? Won't you sit down, Mr. Blundle? I suppose he could have seen somebody locally, but he insisted on keeping it in the family. Won't you sit down, Mr. Blundle? Robert, would you see if the kettle's boiling, darling? Mr. Blundle, have you been at Hoffman's a long time?
Ooh, I go back to the days when they took pine trees in at one end and delivered mahogany sideboards at the other.
How nice.
Nice.
To be part of a tradition.
Nowadays, all the Welsh dresses are made in Finland.
Oh.
I don't know what the Japanese must think.
Japanese?
They buy them. They must think Finland's just north of Aberystwyth.
It's boiled.
Good. Excuse me, Mr. Blundle.
Do you think that work's a good thing, then?
I beg your pardon?
Work. Good for the character.
Whose character?
The workers, of course.
If that was true, all the workers would have better characters than the management, wouldn't they? Because the management don't do any work. Hey, hang on. Do you know what you've just said?
No.
You've just solved the riddle of the universe.
Have I?
Work is good for the character. The workers do all the work. So the workers have got the best characters. This could change the whole world. I can see myself sat on the stage at the next TUC conference.
Oh, but that's only true, is it not, if the management don't do any work?
Have you ever seen them do anything?
My father's the only one I know.
Ah, well, they are, then that proves it. No more argument. Matters settled once and for all.
Oh, good. Now, Mr. Blundle, do you take sugar in your tea?
The worker is the best man.
Of course.
4 lumps, please.
But what about the lilies of the field?
Who?
They're in the Bible.
I don't think Mr. Blundle wants to go into that, Robert.
That's why I invited him.
Tell me, Mr. Blundle, will you and Mrs. Blundle be going... Oh,
Oh, thank you very much indeed.
The lilies toil not, neither do they spin.
Sounds like a major stoppage. 1 out, all out. You get it? Lilies, 1 out, all out.
Yes. Traffic wardens work.
You call that work?
And burglars.
Who?
And the secret police.
What are you talking about?
Burglars just work on social hours, that's all.
another sandwich, Mr.
Oh,
Blundle.
thank you very much indeed.
And they do have their home life disrupted at regular intervals.
A piece of cake, Mr. Blundle. This one is always a favourite with Robert's friends.
Thank you very much indeed.
Tell me, did you and Mrs. Blundle get away last year? Or was it the conference?
The conferences.
The conference, no.
Yeah. Sometimes we have fraternal weekends in Rotterdam.
Oh.
But usually Mrs. Blundell's sister comes to stay.
Oh, I have no idea.
What is it?
Oh, it's your cake.
What's wrong with my cake?
It's gone down the wrong way.
Oh, take a drink of tea, Mr. Blundell. Go and get a glass of water, Robert.
Oh, this happened last Christmas.
Oh, did it?
I think I'm going to faint. I fainted last Christmas.
Oh, Mr. Blundell, please don't faint.
I need to submerge my head in water. Can't put my head in that.
Go upstairs and run a bath. And don't argue. Come on, Mr. Blundell. Just lean on me. Now, don't worry about a thing. Mr. Blundell.
Mrs. Blundell's sister said I was going to die.
Don't talk, Mr.
She
Blundell.
would. Typical.
It'll be all right, I
Typical.
promise.
Hi. Guess who? Use your welcome.
Are you listening to?
I haven't got the faintest idea, but we've all got to learn it.
What the hell was that?
Oh, that was Mr. Blundell.
Oh, very funny. There. A simple, straightforward question.
Mummy's up there with Mr. Blundell in the bath. It's all right.
Look, Robert, doubtless you have them in stitches at school, but we are not amused.
Mr. Blundell came home for tea. He had some cake, got a crumb stuck down his throat, went upstairs, put his head in the bath. It weren't last Christmas.
Hello, Edwin.
Oh, my God, I've gone mad.
Well, Mr. Thornfield, I'm feeling much better now, thank you.
Therefore, Mr. Lazenby recommends of a stick their heads in a bucket of water.
Trouble.
Good morning, Frank.
Nobody knows how to write a menu in German.
Well, they haven't had their lessons yet.
I can't wait 15 years for a decent meal.
It's not a question of trust, is it, Frank? I mean, you know, just to write sausage, egg and chips in German on a menu, it doesn't require a high degree of moral aptitude, does it? I mean, after all, Frank, most menus aren't written by clergymen, are they?
That'll be in English and they'd laugh,
Yes, but
like her.
So would you, Frank?
What?
Oh, I mean, understand it, not laugh, Frank. Oh, no, not laugh, not laugh. And then if you saw it first, I mean, you could censor it and take it down, couldn't you?
What is the... people who want to change everything that get my goat. It is not natural to speak German, Edwin. And it is not natural for us to eat with them. I mean, you wouldn't have Blundle round to dinner, would you? You wouldn't let that daughter of yours marry one of them, would you? Of course you wouldn't. You wouldn't allow the bounder in the house. That's why you keep a dog. You haven't left it outside, have you?
I haven't got a dog, Frank.
What have you left outside?
I haven't. I don't know, Frank. I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to intrude. I just wanted to say thank you for yesterday, Mr. Thornfield.
Yes. We're rather busy at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Blundle.
I must have left my head in your bath too long.
Left your what in his what?
Mr. Blundle, can we talk about it later, please? Thank you very much.
Mr. Thornfield's bath.
Oh, do you know it?
I don't think I have anything more to say to you, Edwin.
No, I didn't think you would have, Frank.
Suddenly, I feel terribly lonely.
Frank, it was my son.
Have you got a kitchen? Bath in there?
Yes, we have. No, he couldn't.
And to think that I was trying to sort the wheat from the chaff with a few collars and ties.
He didn't even have a bath, Frank.
And a selection of hits from The Marriage of Figaro.
He just put his head in it. He didn't even undress.
Didn't undress?
Of course he didn't undress, Frank. Oh, absolutely not, Frank. Absolutely not.
Thank God for that. I feel 10 years younger.